Hi, it's Penny Quayle Pierce. I'm live and I'm talking this evening about the guilt and grief of being a new mum or dad, and how to stay sane in the changing world of being a new parent. People have basically asked me why am I talking about this on Facebook Live. Obviously, being a new mum myself, and basically, again, basically, I keep on saying basically, um, but basically, being a new mum is a challenge, and a lot of us have had journeys where it's taken some time to be with the right person to become a parent. Maybe we've had IVF, maybe we've had all sorts of different situations to become pregnant and have a baby. And it's really important to understand, of course, when we first take that baby into our arms, we fall in love with them, and it is a wonderful and amazing situation to be a new parent. But that doesn't help us when the baby is screaming blue murder at 3 o'clock in the morning, or is challenging us with new behaviours, which of course babies who are growing up are changing all the time. And no 2 days are the same. One day may be very loving and very caring and watching your baby grow in new ways. And other days may be a real challenge. And we forget that, some of the things that we need to process and go through as a new parent are, dealing with some of our less than positive thought forms around this change in our lives and this baby. And it's also looking at some of the things that we give up as a new parent, whether you're a dad or whether you're a mum. All of us have these feelings of losing our sense of identity and losing, whether we may have had a career and we have given that up for maternity leave, or we're going to dedicate more time than just the maternity leave to bringing up our new baby. And, some of that is grief and anger and some of the less positive emotions which will rise up at any stage. And if we don't acknowledge them at the time, it can lead to behaviour that we will take it out on unthinkingly on that new baby and that very precious gift that we've been given. And most mums realise that they've been given a precious gift. But as I was saying, at 2 o'clock in the morning, when the baby's been crying because they're teething or they've got colic or whatever reason that be, we don't necessarily keep that love in our hearts at that moment in time. And the thought forms that can crowd our minds can be quite destructive. Why have I done this? Questioning all sorts of different things. And, as all mums are aware, is you can't give the baby back. So nobody's going to take the baby from you. And it depending on whether you've got friends and family who are supportive, whether you can actually get time off or from being with the baby or not. The responsibility for this precious new life is ours. And we put ourselves through enormous amounts of guilt of, some, as I was saying, around those thought forms that are not the most positive. And we feel that we shouldn't feel that way, and we're a bad mother or a bad father, and we start beating ourselves up which I will say to you is not helpful. I mean, there's been times, my son's name is Hector. There's been times where, early on, I wanted to drop kick him out of the window, and just had to actually learn to take a breath, relax, put him down safely in his crib and walk away, and just take care of whatever authentic needs I had in that moment. When you're a new mum, you go to the loo and, you need to take baby with you. When they're a toddler, they just walk into the bathroom whilst you're, taking care of your authentic evolution needs. And, if you haven't got people who can help you, i.e. your husband is working or your partner is working and you're it, you're taking sole responsibility. And it may be that it's a huge wake-up call for anybody. And anybody who actually says to you that they don't have feelings of feeling inadequate, or that this wet thing, both ends, is taking over their life, then I'm sorry, but they haven't got a grip on reality. Most thinking, feeling women, when they're new mums, will go through all sorts of feelings, from despair to incredulity to I can't believe that I've done this, there's no way out, etc., 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 and needing to deal with those emotions, and just being able to talk about those emotions of having your life taken over by this amazing being, but can be very, very challenging. And, again, mums will do all sorts of different behavior to try and smooth their heart. And they either go into competition, and my baby's doing this and my baby's doing that and my baby's doing the other thing, whereas in fact what they actually need to start getting to grips with is the feeling of, my life is now totally and utterly organized by this little bundle of love. And sometimes, as I was saying, we can't get through back to the love when the baby is doing some really challenging behavior. And once the baby is growing, and starts to, Hector was walking by the time he was 10 months, and from that minute onwards, literally, my life was a challenge every day, because he would be getting into all sorts of different stuff. And when they're lying or they're only just beginning to crawl, as we're all aware as parents, we can get away with having the TV low, we can get away with having all sorts of nice things out and ornaments and all sorts of different stuff. And then when they're on their feet, everything, as we're 100% aware, has to be moved up. But it's also, one of the thought forms that came through in my life was, oh my God, he's going to ruin things. And, it's just letting go of the need to be in control, and also the fact that, yes, you have a little Tasmanian devil on your hands, and he's going to be a whirlwind once he's walking. And it's realizing that we need to look at how we're responding. One of the biggest tools I think I've had in my life is a pattern interrupt. When Hector gets into destructive behavior, it's immediately breaking the pattern and distracting him with something else that he likes better than what he's doing. Because, when a youngster is just growing and learning to be in the world, he's constantly testing things out. And when we first did child locks on the kitchen cabinets, he would go around 5 or 6 times a day just to make sure that they were still there. And it's just amazing to watch a youngster testing the boundaries all of the time. And some of it can be incredibly repetitive, and it can be really amusing, and you can have great fun with it. But also sometimes when you're tired and you've not been taking care of your authentic needs, it just gets a little bit desperate. And it's those times when we suddenly realize that when it starts to get a little bit desperate, we need to look at ourselves, and we need to look at our own feelings of guilt for having those thought forms of not necessarily being the most loving mom in those moments, or loving dad in those moments. And also realizing that that's when the grief of not having the life you had before, and it may be, you're very like me, I was a career woman before we had Hector, and I ran a business, which everybody knows, Acorn to Oak. And I was very busy. I was very organized, and I had a huge tribe of people who looked to me, and I enjoyed every single moment of it. It was a fantastic life, and having needing to give some of that time away. And it was, when Hector was small, I took care of him 24/7. And obviously I wanted to be there as a new mum to bond with Hector and make sure that I had a good relationship with him. But what you find is I couldn't do what I was doing before, although I have a very supportive husband, and he is daddy daycare, which is fantastic. But obviously he's working. He works 4 days a week, and it was getting to the stage where I wasn't able to be who I was before I was a mom. And that's where the grief comes in. You have to grieve the fact that you're no longer able to do the things that you could do prior to being a parent. Obviously, again, for me, it was very much, not going out in the evening, not having the social life that I used to have, etc., etc., etc. Not even, we have 2 golden Labradors who are fantastic, but it was, going and taking the dogs for a walk was like a major expedition of getting out all the things that I needed to take for Hector, plus all the stuff for the dogs, and getting everybody in the car. I was used to leaping into a car and driving off. That no longer happens. All of those types of things. And, obviously the rucksack with the changing stuff and the feeds and everything that I may need. Of course, being a mum, you overpack with things. And it's not until a bit later that you actually start to reduce the amount of stuff that you take with you. And I would find that if I forgot something, again, that's where the feelings of guilt came in. Oh, I've forgotten something I haven't, I must be a bad mum because I forgot to put in this, or I forgot to put in that. Or, again, in the summertime, it was very much, have I put on the sun cream? Have I, all of these things. And, maybe it's because I'm an older mum, but you basically, baby brain is a phenomenon. It really is. And I would go into the house about 3 times, and then finally we would leave. And it is all of these feelings that build up, and if you don't actually pay attention, if you don't actually look um, at what is actually going on, the guilt will basically build up, and you start to resent the fact that all of your time is taken up by this beautiful new baby. But it's again, it's the stories that go round our minds which actually then start to impede on our own behavior. And there was a very challenging time with Hector where he would bite when he got his new teeth. He thought they were fantastic, so just to test them out, he would bite and he would pull hair, and it's actually quite painfully. And again, it's a case of, well, you need to deal with that within yourself so that you don't take any action by striking back or pulling his hair or trying to get him to stop that behavior. Whereas actually the distraction and the pattern interrupt is what actually helps with these types of behavior as they show themselves. It is very, very difficult, and it's a hugely, parenting is a hugely emotive subject. There's lots of different things to look at and make decisions with your partner, whether you're going to vaccinate or whether you're not going to vaccinate, whether you're going to use Cowpole or not use Cowpole, or to actually start disciplining a child early or not, and how are you going to do that? And it's real important that parents get to be able to talk to other parents and also get to talk to other mums and dads so that they can have support, or they can just say, I'm having a bloody awful day. And I know it was really interesting when Luke was going to work, and the other dads who work in the same company as him, they would actually say, oh, so and so's teething, or this is going on, or that's going on, and they were able to actually talk to other people, like-minded people who basically were going through similar things. Because I think, one of the things that's really important to acknowledge is, yes, being a new mum can be a very challenging thing, but also being a new dad is a very challenging thing. Because, for me, again, it was a case of, I'm very, very lucky. In some ways, I've had, I knew what a nappy was. I'm a registered sick children's nurse, or that's one of the qualifications I have. And, therefore, illness, nappies, if we say poo catastrophes, didn't faze me. But it is a huge undertaking, and unless we've been to parenting classes, etc., 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 it can be a rude awakening. Babies, yes, are beautiful, and they're bundles of love and fun. However, they have good days and they have bad days, like we do. And we have good moments and we have not so good moments. And if we don't acknowledge how we're feeling or how things make us feel, it's really, we suppress it, and it comes back later in life, and we say stupid things like, I'm not a good mum, or I'm having a real challenge around this. And actually, if we can acknowledge it at the time, then we can stay more present with these amazing beings that have just come into our lives. So again, it's very much I suppose this Facebook Live is about allowing people to tell the truth about how they're feeling. So, one of the things, or one of the tools that we use at Acorn to Oak is a tact, which is telling the absolute complete truth. And it's not trying to, put sugar on the top and make it all nice and sweet and gorgeous. It's actually saying how you feel, and in being able to acknowledge how you feel about something is, it allows you not to suppress it into your subconscious, and therefore allow time for it to come on and bite you in the bum later. So again, I was very much going to keep this a reasonably short chat around the guilt and the grief of being a new mum. But if anybody has got any questions or would like to write any comments, please do now as I continue. I'll probably just talk for another 5 minutes or so. I really do feel this subject is under talked about. I do think that there's an awful lot of us out there who've been through experiences of being a new parent, or who are hoping to have that experience of being a new parent. And it is not helpful when we poo-poo somebody who is going through a difficult time with a baby or toddler. And it's really important that if we're out there in the community and somebody just basically has a moment of absolute panic or despair, that we are, as a society, we're there to help and to say, don't worry about it. We all make mistakes. We all have bad days. It's just, it's important to stay as present as you can be. And if you do make a mistake, or if you do feel that, you were a bit rough, it's important to acknowledge that and put it aside. Don't feel guilty over the thoughts or the behaviors, and just, make that conscious decision to be there for our babies and children in a very positive way. Somebody's just written a question: when do you know you are ready for a baby? I would say to you that nothing quite prepares you. I mean, if you have nephews or nieces, maybe, if you feel an affinity, I would say to you, if you're thinking about having a baby, just go for it. But just be prepared to be amazed, because the amazement is the love and the happiness and the hilarity of watching a little person grow. But also, as I was saying, don't be surprised at the amount of guilt and grief that comes with it. There is always the light and the shadow in these circumstances, and the light can be blinding, which is fantastic, and it is a real privilege to be a mum, but it also can be a real despair on occasions, when you just realize that you can only do your best. You can only try and stay in heart space if you can, and the rest of it, you just get through the best you can. And sometimes, when baby goes down in the evening and you get to to have the precious downtime, sometimes you just need to put your feet up, eat chocolate, and watch some stupid rom-com, just to take your mind off some of the trials of every day. But most of the time, I obviously I have focused a little bit on the not so positive side, the guilt and the grief, because that's not acknowledged enough. But you know, there is nothing quite like being a mom, and um, the absolute wonder of it. Um, but also, you know, Jill has put a very good comment here. The assumption that it's supposed to be all loving and good can impact on the feelings of guilt and inadequacy. You know, it is so true. You know, as you telling the truth helps you and other parents to know the complexity of feelings that come with parenting. What a beautiful statement. I couldn't have put it any better myself, Jill. So thank you for saying that and sharing that. Because, you know, the joy is amazing, but that doesn't mean that there isn't the guilt and the grief. And if we suppress those, and we suppress the fact that, you know, we do have feelings of guilt and grief. You know, one of the things, decisions I made when Hector got to 10 months old was I needed to spend some time looking at Acorn to Oak. And, you know, if I got some admin help, the only problem was when I got the admin help, we spent more time playing with Hector than we actually did doing any work, and that wasn't moving Acorn to Oak on. So I made the decision to bring in some childcare, and the guilt I felt over that decision of bringing somebody into our home and looking after my son was enormous. And it took me probably 2 weeks to actually process that guilt in order to attract the right person. And luckily we found the right person, and she comes in on a Thursday so that I can actually pay attention to my business, and also pay attention to the people who want my coaching and want my help. And it's quite amazing. It's also brought me again. Penny is allowed out on a Thursday, which is really helpful to me, and I can be more present and more spontaneous on other days with Hector. So, you know, I mean, Hector goes swimming, he goes to baby yoga, he does all sorts of different stuff. And as a mum, I am able to be more present with him because I actually can take care of my authentic needs. And part of my authentic needs is running my business. And as I said, being present and available to people who would like my services and some of the services that Acorn to Oak provide. So it's really important to deal with that guilt so that you can move through it and be, as I said, more present as a parent and more present, you know, with your child. So again, if there's anything else anybody wants to say or share, please do. And I'm just going to talk about for 2 minutes. As I said, my commitment at the moment is to be doing Facebook Live on a Monday at 8:30 in the evening for about half an hour or maybe a bit longer. And then next time, I think next Monday, we're talking about procrastination and how procrastination can come in when we're actually needing to move forward and what we can do to actually move that on. So I would like to thank you all for being with me this evening. or watching this at some other stage. And I've also put down my email address because I know that some people will want to email me with any questions or comments separately from this video. What I'm trying to get across, if I haven't already, is to be kind to yourself, to really understand what your authentic needs as a new parent is, and to take care of them. And if you feel that you need help and support, find a way of bringing that in, whether that be family members, or whether that be bringing in childcare, or whether that's just asking help from health visitors or GPs or whomever. Just bring in people. You are not alone going through these things. We all, as new parents, go through these things, and sometimes it's just important to pick up a phone and ask for help. We don't have to do it all on our own. Okay? It's just that is one of the most important things. We don't have to do this on our own. We can get help and support. There are people that we can talk to. Okay? All right. Well, thank you for joining me again, and I will be live again next week. And in the meantime, enjoy. Take care.